So, thank you guys again for joining me for my continuing coverage of the Budo League. I'm Gunter, and joining me is the Shimatsu clan's Tadahisa. How you doing, Tadahisa?
Hey Gunter, how are you?
I'm pretty good. Today's matchup is between the IR30 clan's Karl von Clauswitz here in the black and red against the Virus clan's Team 1's Water. Unit compositions, take it away, Tadahisa.
Well, basically you can see Karl von Clauswitz's army is mainly reliant on his cavalry. He doesn't really have very many sword troops. He has a whole lot of Ashigaru, no monks that I can see. He has some Nodachi samurai. He has several bow Ashigaru units, but they're not really going to be decisive. Basically what he's looking to do is he's looking to overwhelm his opponent with cavalry on the right flank. So as you can see here, he's got 2 Great Guard. He's got a Katana cavalry veteran, and he has 2 Yari cavalry veterans. So yeah, he'll really be looking to press his advantage there because his army is not really structured to engage in any other level by the looks of it due to its composition. It's mainly peasant troops.
And we can't really see anything from Water from the Virus clan, so... but what he is showing is 3 units of Yari Ashigaru, his general, and nothing else. So we're going to have to get it started and see what emerges out of this clump of trees. So we should both be paused. We'll hit play in 3, 2, 1, play. And we should be underway. Now, lots of players like to deploy their entire army on rice fields in this clump of trees. Is there really much of a point, apart from just hiding them for just a few seconds, a little bit of a guessing game for the opponent?
Well, I think you should always try and conceal your army, even when that concealment's obvious, because there's a lot of things that your opponent won't pick up on during the battle. And sometimes you can just hide the 1 unit of cavalry in the forest right from the beginning through to the end, and that can swing it. If you get that cavalry unit out on their flank when they're engaged and they don't notice, you can take out the general, you can take out the archers, you can attack a melee in the rear. So there are a lot of advantages to keeping your army cloaked at the beginning. It really keeps them guessing. You can also make them very cautious too, because they don't really know what you have.
Now Water is moving out of the forest, and he's very ranged heavy. I see 5 units of bowmen and a unit of matchlocks.
Yes, he is. This obviously is... I think what he wants to do is he wants to basically take them apart with shooting and then charge with his swords. You can see quite a few sword units there. Some high quality katana samurai. Some Yarashigaru, and if you look further back you can see he's got cavalry hidden. I don't think he intended for those to move, but you can see them in the forest.
Yep.
So yeah, he's probably going to get in a bit of a range skirmish, and he's going to hope that Karl von Clauswitz's cavalry doesn't engage him too heavily on his flank, because if he manages to do that, his ranged troops will be taken out.
And he doesn't have many spearman units to support his cavalry either, and...
This is a mistake. I think you always have to have spears mixed in with your cavalry, especially with mechanics in this game, because cavalry on cavalry engagements are very costly. You're always better to have infantry fighting against enemy cavalry units. When I play my matches, I basically try and have my cavalry pinning theirs, and then I'll try and get infantry in as soon as possible. I generally won't sort of fight unit for unit.
We see Karl has his general with his cavalry. A lot of players prefer to have the leadership tree, but how good are the other specialties with your general's experience?
Well, I think it really depends on your tactical style in the battles. So if you want to have sort of more of a cavalry focus, I'd say the melee general's probably better because he can lead your cavalry into the fray and he ignores spears, so he can take out any potentially troublesome spear units.
Now you can see the skirmish is beginning on the front line, and the cavalry of Karl von Clauswitz is closing in ever so slowly. So, one has to imagine that Water is going to win the skirmish if it continues, but Karl's going to charge in his cavalry right now.
I highly doubt it. If he's being smart, he'll just go right around the edge of these spearmen that you can see, and he'll take out those archers with his cav. He'll then have the ranged advantage. The problem there is he's going to have to sacrifice his cavalry to do it, so that'll mean that he'll lose a bit of his own advantage in the following melee, because Water has swords and he doesn't really. I mean, he has a few units, but it's not decisive. So he's got to be careful in his cavalry engagement. If he loses too much, it'll be to his disadvantage.
Karl von Clauswitz is moving forward his spearman units, which does actually include a Naginata samurai unit. So I guess he just wants to get stuck in and try to do as much damage as possible while his archers stay back. And
I think he's pushing this a bit too soon. but I don't know, in every battle you never really know what's going to happen until the end, so you gotta see what goes on, but I would have waited personally. If it was me, I'd just capitalise on the opportunity to fire into melee or fire in his archers while they're moving, as you can see there. A lot of players don't do that. They'll just try and shoot at archers, but they won't try and shift them around. If you can shift around the enemy's archers, they're not shooting back at you. And you get a whole lot of free shots in. I can usually take out 4 units of archers with just 2 of my own, just by keeping them moving. So he hasn't really gone for that. But as you can see, this attack's worked out pretty well. He's taken out the first wave.
2 units of Yari Ashigaru did flee, the third one following along pretty soon. Sword units coming up the left flank, along with 2 units of cavalry. His general did get caught, but Karl von Clauswitz managed to defend that attack off pretty well.
And he is winning the cav fight on the flank, so it's very important. He's got to keep up the pressure there if he wants to win, because he can't take on all these sword units.
And Karl von Clauswitz very wisely has a unit of spearmen backing those cavalry up, as you say, very important.
Oh yes, very, very important.
So this is very much going Karl von Clauswitz's way. Water still has quite a big ball there in the middle around his general, but it's falling apart pretty quickly.
It's all made up of ranged units, so they can't really contribute to the melee. So, but no, he does have a lot of swordsmen still there.
Yep,
I think to win he's really got to take out his general, and if you look closely, you can see that Water's got his general in stand and fight, and if he stays like that, he should win the melee. Because stand and fight gives you some pretty potent advantages. I don't think, no, because Karl von Clauswitz has got a melee general, he can't do that. I think stand and fight gives you about +6 to melee defense and +3 to melee attack. I'm not sure, I'll have to check, but it's pretty substantial. But,
yeah, but
not that it matters in this round.
You can see it's
he's
not helping at the
voluntarily
moment. No, his army's falling apart completely, and even though his general's going to be the last to die, that means the rest of his army's dead, so...
Yeah, so Karl
that's
von
the
Clauswitz did very well. He kept pressure up on the flank with his cavalry, he didn't lose it. He got into melee quickly, which I might not have done, but it worked for him. And I think he just had the better balanced army at the end of the day. More cavalry, fewer sword troops.
Well said, so Karl von Clauswitz goes up 1 game to none in this best of 3 set against his opponent, the Virus Clan Team 1's Water. Alright, here we go. Game 2 in this best of 3 set. It's IR30 versus Virus Team 1. Karl von Clauswitz versus Water. Karl von Clauswitz took the first one very convincingly. And we're still on Rice Fields. My co-caster is the Shimatsu Clan's Tadahisa. Unit compositions, Tadahisa. Go for your life.
Well, Karl von Clauswitz has got the same army pretty much as what he had last match, so very heavy Ashigaru. He has a fairly strong cavalry component, and the only real difference is that he's taken a bow cavalry as opposed to a unit of Yari cavalry. His cavalry are pretty well veteraned, he's got the melee general, so he should have the advantage in the cavalry fight. But as you can see, his infantry arm's quite weak, made up of Ashigaru. They can't really hold out in a ranged fight, they can't hold out in melee very well, unless they're heavily veteraned, which I think these are, but you never really know because the chevrons don't really indicate how many skill points have been assigned. Over on the other side you have Water's army, which I think is very well composed. He's got a good mix of spearmen, swords, guns, some bows are in there, some cavalry, so I think he's learned from the last match and he's decided that he needs more spears to counter Karl von Clauswitz's cavalry moves. So this will be a very interesting match. Fought against Water once or twice before, and he's quite a good general, so I think he'll have a good chance in this particular match.
Alright, well let's get along and see just how much he's decided to mix up his strategy. The new unit composition would seem to indicate he's mixed it up quite a bit. So, we should both be paused at the beginning, and we shall start in 3, 2, 1, play. We should both be underway and more or less in sync. Now, Karl von Clauswitz had a very weak infantry arm in the first game, but it still worked out pretty well for him, and he did charge in early, and that was because he won the cavalry fight at the beginning. Is that more or less correct?
Yes and no. I think it just simply caused more than enough chaos in Water's sort of rear areas, so his men were trying to sort of put down this cavalry attack, and that gave Karl von Clauswitz the opportunity to attack. I think also he had his archers firing into the melee. So, seeing as Water's got, he's got a fair few lightly armoured troops in this army. I can't remember what was in the previous army when it came to armour, but that would really disrupt the melee, and that would disrupt it in Clauswitz's favour. I think in terms of composition, I think Water's got the better one for this. He's got a very good balance. The matchlocks will be very difficult for Karl von Clauswitz to counter if he gets in melee. They'll cause a lot of damage.
And they are Matchlock Warrior Monks. Now, Matchlock Warrior Monks, they have high morale, or are they also more dangerous with their actual range attack?
They have slightly higher morale, they have a higher rate of fire, they have an ability which gives them longer range, and they have some very nice sort of ranged perks when they get to a veteran status. So overall they're just probably maybe not the best choice of musket unit, but they're the best musket unit. So if you really want to dominate the field in this area, that's what you want to get.
Speaking of veterancy, 2 of them are Vet 5 and 1 of them is Vet 7. Now we are seeing the bow cavalry from Karl von Clauswitz come over Water's left flank. What would be the best way to use a single unit of bow cavalry? We saw TAC 27 use 5 of them very effectively. How would you use 1 very effectively?
Basically I'd be targeting his musket units from the flank or from the rear. It's a bit difficult to attack Water with bow cavalry because he's an attacker by nature. And against someone who's going to charge you, it's not a very good idea to have bow cavalry.
Now, Water's
so
doing something very strange. He's sending his cavalry in first. No, he's decided to turn them around now.
Yeah, the spears are out, so yeah, it's not good for him to attack. As you can see, his army's still moving forward, and the bow cavalry really can't disrupt someone who's willing to move like that on the battlefield.
Yeah, now Karl von Clauswitz swooping in from the flank with all his cavalry, general leading the way.
I think if Karl's smart in this, he'll just go straight for Water's general, because I think the moment Water gets in contact with his army, he'll win.
Here comes the hammer blow. No, Water's army's just stopped in front before they charge ahead, just gonna stand there, and here comes cavalry in the side. Karl von Clauswitz tearing up bow units, katana units. 1 unit of Matchlock Warrior Monks do get a volley off.
You see, if you look at the flank, this is the advantage of the melee general, because you can really swing the cavalry combat in your favour. That said, if you look at his general, it's very weak at the moment, because it has been engaged, and that's the risk that you take. If your general gets knocked out as the melee general, your game's over.
Clauswitz is down to 12 men from 24, but that flank is definitely going in Clauswitz's favour now.
Now, the thing I think we may have missed is... wait, no. Water's general's still in the fight, so I think he's got this. Especially as he's put down stand and fight, and his army's just better composed. In order to win, Karl von Clauswitz has got to move around the flank with his cavalry and find some way of taking out Water's general, and I just don't think that's going to happen.
He could focus fire, he does have 4 archer units up.
There is an attack in the centre with cavalry. Now that was a smart move.
Swing the katana cavalry through into one of the units of matchlocks. Starting to do a little bit of damage to the matchlocks and the general. General now down to 18 out of 20. Unit of Yariashigaru pour in to try shore up that gap. We got rally going down from both generals. And Karl von Clauswitz now very messy. I can't really tell who's exactly winning. It could really go either way.
It really could. It's pretty disorganised for Water right now, and I think that's a disadvantage for his kind of army.
Karl von Clauswitz's general now down to 7 men all by himself over on the flank, getting charged by unit of Yariashigaru. That could be a bad thing.
Actually, I think Karl von Clauswitz has got this, which is really surprising. I think the problem that Water had was that he allowed his attack to become too disorganised, and I think part of the reason for that was counteracting Karl's cavalry.
You did see his entire army charge up to Clauswitz's front line and then just stop dead, and wait, and take a few volleys of bow fire.
I think he lost momentum. You really need to put his spears around his general and just simply charge him with the swords. Maybe have his cavalry near his swordsmen so they couldn't be countercharged by any cavalry.
Now all of Clauswitz's units are screaming down on that general's unit there.
See, as a Russia, Water's really got to keep his army together. He doesn't need to do any really sort of ambitious moves, and as you can see, he's allowed himself to come split up, and Karl's really used this to his advantage.
Yep, so his army is
I'd say Karl's pretty good micro to do what he's done in this. It's very difficult to counter Russia this way. Although I think he was helped by the fact that Water held back for that moment.
Yep. So, Karl von Clauswitz goes up 2-0, taking the set for IR30, which would put them up 1 set to Virus Team 1's 2. Thank you very much for joining me. Thank you.
Yeah, good game, guys, by the way. Nicely fought.